Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to another FIFA 22 video where today we're going to be answering the question which I've had a couple of times already, and just probably a question that is there in the community, and it is, what is the meta this year in FIFA 22, or is there a meta at all? And today we're going to be discussing what it is so far from my experience and just from the general talk in the community, what it is going forwards. Now obviously last year we know that the meta was all about sort of pace and skills and the skill cancels and the bridge and things like that. So what is the game this year? How does it differ from FIFA 21? Now from my own personal experience so far, played plenty of FIFA on the beta, played a good chunk of games so far in Rivals and in sort of draft and things like that. And so far I wouldn't say that there is an obvious meta. And a meta is obviously something that everybody is abusing. Now the thing is, early on in the game cycle is, there doesn't tend to be meta, because people are still getting used to the game. People are still trying to figure out what's good, what's bad, what works and what doesn't work. You can already see, I think, a little bit in terms of what the meta may be based on like the player prices of certain players. For example, someone like Erling Haaland already is under 100,000 coins, and if you've seen his card, it is absolutely mental. Yet he's only 100,000 coins. Yet you've got someone like Mbappe who's 1.7 million. So that should give you an indication as to what people value most at the moment in FIFA. And it seems like, based on those player prices, people are valuing the same sort of players last year again this year. Your likes of Mbappe's, your Neymar's, your Militao's, your Rafa Varane, who's like 350k. It seems like a lot of the same players, people are putting the same stock in again this year. But from my experience so far, I wouldn't say that those same players or the same type of players have been needed. I've had good success playing just a general style of FIFA that doesn't abuse pace, and I think that's the thing. I think at the moment, whilst everybody doesn't have the best teams, you can get away with kind of not having the super meta players whilst people are trying to figure out the game. That doesn't mean there aren't some overpowered mechanics in the game. At the moment, probably the most overpowered sort of mechanics, I guess you could say, at the moment, finesse shots are overpowered, but only in certain positions. You need to get in certain angles, and then obviously certain players can do them, but sort of just to the left or the right of the 18-yard box, making sure you're angling it into the far corner. If you can time those finesse shots as well, they are quite good. The keeper doesn't seem to be able to kind of register what save he wants to make, and they do seem to fly in the top corner more often than not. Not to the point where they were a couple of years ago where, all green time finesses go in, but they do seem fairly overpowered, the finesse shots. And secondly, the next thing that I would say so far has been relatively overpowered. Again, it depends on certain situations, but crossing does seem to be fairly good this year. But again, I wouldn't say either of these mechanics, whether it be finesse shots or crossing, you would necessarily say are broken or necessarily meta. I don't think you're going to go into every game and see people spamming finesse shots and crossing, but at the moment they seem to be two of the better ways to kind of score goals. But I think what I like about FIFA 22, and it's very early on, it's only been 3 days, and once more people get into the game and once we get into playing FUT Champs, I'm sure this will develop. But at the moment, I wouldn't say that there is a clear and obvious meta, and that's really good, because that's what we like about FIFA, and that's kind of what we want with FIFA. We don't want there to be one way to score and one, you have to play a certain way to succeed. I think what we like is we want a game that offers many different opportunities to score in lots of different ways, and I think at the moment you have that luxury that you can play lots of different styles. I've played against some people who have played quite well against me, and they've been playing with a back three. Some people have played with a back five. Some people do play the long ball and pace, and you can tell by the way some people are playing at the moment, like they're trying to spam through balls up the wing or through the middle of your defenders. They're trying to do the running fake shot, and there are a lot of things that are overpowered in FIFA 21. So you can tell that a couple of people that I've played have tried to bring over that same style of FIFA into this one, and the two or three guys that have played like that against me have actually been the 2 or 3 guys that I have beaten the most. Like, I've scored the most goals, and they've been the most comfortable because they've tried to just do what they did last year. With the game this year, you can't really play at the moment in that same style. Now obviously the game may get patched, may change, but at the moment it seems like that style of play doesn't work. It seems like if you're patient on the ball, if you're someone who likes to be quite patient and you like to kind of build your attacks up quite slowly, and then if you do have a little bit of pace, you can sort of slide those balls in behind. but goalkeepers are very mixed at the moment. Now, the one thing that's frustrating about goalkeepers is really bad goalkeepers seem to perform amazing. Now, I don't mind if a goalkeeper is making save after save after save if it's Oblak or Alisson or Edison or ter Stegen or Neuer or one of the best keepers in the world. But when it's maybe a 78, 79 and he's making wonder saves, it can be quite frustrating because that's not realistic. You know, they're not going to do that every single game. But generally at the moment, I do think the game feels very balanced. As I said, very early doors. But I wouldn't at the moment say that there is an obvious established meta that I think we're going to be seeing abused, you know, game after game after game. Typically for these sorts of metas to be established, it takes normally a couple of months. For example, you look at last year, people spamming the bridge and sort of skill cancels. It didn't kind of become a real problem until sort of January, February of that year, and then it kind of was an uncontrollable thing and everybody was doing it. But that took sort of 3 or 4 months. So I don't think we're going to see any massive obvious metas for a couple of weeks or maybe even a couple of months. But at the moment, I think the game is very balanced. I think it's very good. I know some people don't like the game at the moment and they're complaining that it's maybe too slow. And the game speed maybe is a tad slow. I do think, like, if you're someone who wants to play really fast tiki-taka football, that's quite difficult because the game speed is a little bit slower. But personally, I think at the moment, I think the game is in a really good sweet spot. I think there's always going to be a little bit of disagreement because you have obviously half the community want quite a realistic football game, which seems to be what we have at the moment, and another half of the community do like the sort of more fast-paced arcadey style football. So it is quite difficult to obviously get that balance, but at the moment I think it probably leans more towards the more realistic style of FIFA. I think you can play quite slow, quite methodical in the way you attack, and you can have good success. So at the moment I wouldn't say there is an established meta, but I think it depends on the way you like to play. If you like to play quite slow and quite methodical, it's very, very good for you at the moment, but that obviously could change because we are very early on into the FIFA cycle. But that is all for today's video, guys. So I just wanted to let you know about what things are good and are not good at the moment in the game. And I wouldn't say, I think the game is very balanced at the moment. I haven't experienced too many sort of broken mechanics and too many things that are overpowered. Just really finesse shots and crossing are probably the things that are the most obvious to the eye, that are the most sort of overpowered, I guess you could say. But I wouldn't say that they're nothing like sort of we've seen obviously the bridge in previous FIFAs or green time finesse shots or low drivens. There's nothing at the moment that's that level of broken in the game that you should worry about getting abused as the game develops. But that is all for today's video, guys. So if you did enjoy, do drop a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe as well if you are new to the channel. We're going to have many tutorials, tactic videos, all these things come in, so hopefully you guys will enjoy the content this year. But that is all for today, guys. Have an awesome day. I'm out.